What's going on, everybody? Welcome to LuTV. We're talking best of the rest. We're talking all the schools we haven't talked about so far, except for the SEC, which we'll do next week. We have Zach Toe with me, CFF News _, the man that just straight up owns small schools like he's Boise State. What's going on, man? Fresh haircut. You gonna bring the same kind of intensity today?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. Talking about Boise State, I can talk about them all day, but I won't.
That's a good thing.
Guys,
although, to be fair, there's plenty of guys on Boise State that need to be talked about.
Before we go, can I talk about the orange helmets? How cool they are?
Dude, go for it, man. I actually sent a picture to my couple buddies of the helmets, but go for it. Let's go.
Okay, I've been talking for like the last 5 years. It's like they need an orange helmet. And all of a sudden, once I lost hope of them ever having an orange helmet, they have one.
It's because of your presence on LuTV, Zach.
It's got to be.
How can you hate on those all blue uniforms where you couldn't see them if you were playing them at home?
No. I don't hate the all blue. I love the all blue. I just think that they have a black helmet, a white helmet, and a blue helmet. Why couldn't they have an orange helmet?
Yeah, you're right.
I'll say this, Boise has always had some sweet helmets. I saw that orange one and was like, holy smokes, that thing is awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have this new rule in college football. You can't have numbers on your jersey that are too close to your actual jersey color. And I feel like that's the Boise State rule.
Agreed.
Because Boise State always has blue jerseys, blue field, light blue numbers, and it's like, what the hell? I can't see anything.
You know what they did to, I guess, stick it in the face of the NCAA? Is they put reflective numbers on. Like, they said, all right, fine, we won't have ones that blend in. We'll have some that just pop out and, are gaudy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Andrew, what's going on, man? Are you excited to talk about the best of the rest?
Yeah, I'm stoked to let Zach carry the show for once. You know, we've been doing most of the heavy lifting here, Chris.
Yeah, Andrew, this is really Zach's show, and honestly, I feel like I didn't really prepare as much as I could because I knew that Zach needed to take charge for once.
Yeah, no pressure here.
No pressure, Zach.
None.
Before we get to the good stuff, we're going to discuss a pretty cool thing. We will be sponsored here very shortly by Fantasy Elite. Everybody knows Grant Girton, especially on Lou Dogs. Really cool dude, really huge into college football, so you know he's really prepared for this season. So we're going to be sponsored by him. We're going to be talking Fantasy Elite, which is really honestly going to be perfect for us because of our kind of knowledge in these smaller schools, especially a guy like Zach who loves that crap. We're going to dive into these smaller schools, the MAC schools, the MACtion, the big Thursday night games, during Thanksgiving on the Fridays, the smaller slates we're going to really hit on. It could mean 2 to 3 shows a week. It could mean a lot more, airtime for the three of us, and Grant wants to come on as well and do some shows. So some pretty exciting news for all of us here, kind of being recognized for the work that we've been putting in lately. So I think that's pretty cool. Zach, I know Andrew's not a team iPhone, team technology at all. Zach, have you played a little bit of Fantasy Elite, or is this going to be really your first experience jumping in?
Yeah, it'll be my first experience. I'm not an iPhone guy either, but I could swing an iPhone or two.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody, for the most part, knows how to play, but basically, Fantasy Elite is really cool because of the smaller slates. It's really big in basketball season when you have the Thursday night games. What happens is it's a draft, salary cap draft, and it pretty much, you can't have the same players as the guy on the other team, so it's really cool on smaller slates. So that's where they really make that's their niche, really. So it'll be really cool to be doing that during the week and obviously on Saturday for the big games and stuff like that. So pretty excited to announce that. Grant's a really cool guy, really happy to be partnering with him. With that being said, Zach, we've been talking you up. So you want to spend like 3 to 4 minutes on Boise State. Let me do this. Do you think Boise State is the top elite, DFS team for the best of the rest, or do you think maybe that's like Marshall's territory?
Honestly, I think it's Marshall. I think Rakeem Cato, quarterback, he's my highest ranked quarterback that's from the best of the rest conferences. So I think he, with the wide receiver Tommy Schuler is looking for at least another 100 catches, which, by the way, if he catches 100 passes this year, he'll be the first player ever to catch 100 passes in 3 straight years.
Wow. That's a pretty big number, man.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to drop a 4 season on me, but 3. How many catches has he had if he gets 100 this year? Is that like 350 in his career?
I mean, he had like 114 2 years ago, like 106 last year. I don't give or take a few catches, but I mean, you get the point. He's targeted often, so fantasy-wise, he's gold.
Yeah, he's a top talent. Really, if you look at some of the sites that are throwing out there, I know Fantasy Aces just threw up their college football games, and I think Tommy Schuler is towards the top in terms of pricing. A lot of respect for the smaller school with Marshall's offense being really good. And honestly, Rakeem Cato kind of makes that offense so good and makes Schuler that good. Would you consider?
Schuler's got upside too, though, with Gator Hoskins gone. Like, he hasn't been the TD guy in that offense the past couple of years because of that. So I mean, he's got a great floor, but I think his ceiling's really high too this year.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good dynamite dropping, Andrew. I thought you were going to take the show off.
No, he's right though. Gator Hoskins had 50 catches last year, and 15 of them went for touchdowns. He's gone.
He's gone. So that's good news for him. When it comes to Rakeem Cato, how high would you rank him in terms of DFS quarterbacks overall? When you're talking SEC, ACC, not ACC, Big Ten, all the big major conferences. I mean, how good is Rakeem Cato?
I think he's one of the best because you got his matchups every week are going to be. I mean, they should be favored in every game they play by at least a touchdown. So
yeah, that
I wouldn't be shocked if they ran the table.
Look at the games they have this year. Let's look at the schedule. They play at Miami. They got Rhode Island. Oh my goodness, Rhode Island, Ohio, Akron, Old Dominion. I mean, they really do not play one big-time defense. Rakeem Cato, you'd be crazy not to be picking him just off the strength of schedule alone.
And that Miami is Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio. I'm sorry, Miami of Ohio. Although, to be honest, Miami, the Hurricanes might not be that much of a, in general, not as good as they typically have been. Is there anybody else in that offense you think, Zach, that is worthy of a shout-out here? The running back, maybe?
Yeah,
is there anybody there?
Stuart Butler's definitely worth a look because their guy last year, Esre Taliaferro, I guess is how you would say his name, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, over 1,100 yards, and he's gone. So Stuart Butler's the guy who actually was second on the team in rushing last year. So he should definitely be approaching 1,000 yards this year, if not go over.
Let me jump in because I can actually add something to the small school thing here, a solid nugget potentially. Just following their first scrimmage, the guy who actually got the first carry in that scrimmage was their tight end. I forget his first name. His last name's Johnson. And they used him as a goal line back last year, and he took the first carry for 25 yards. I mean, maybe he's not an every down back, but with that, I forget who the guy they were planning on having as their running back this year, but he like blew out his knee or something, right? So maybe they don't just give all the carries to one guy. Maybe they include this tight end who is also going to be filling Hoskins' shoes. So maybe he could do some double duty. And I mean, he's looking dirt cheap initially, at least.
No doubt.
All right, so I'm glad, Andrew, you could jump in because I was trying to find a school that you would be able to talk about, or I would be able to talk about, like that's that important at the beginning. Before jumping to Boise, do you think Boise is the number 2 team, or you think maybe Bowling Green is the number 2 DFS team? Show some homerism here if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to lean with Boise here because I think they have 2 receivers that are, for fantasy purposes, very good. You got Matt Miller, the senior, who actually in our Fantrax league that we were in, by the stats last year, he had, I think, like half a fantasy point more than Tommy Schuler did last year, which says a lot. And I didn't realize he was that good until I looked at the numbers comparison. But Matt Miller is a great option, and Shane Williams-Rhodes is a PPR guy and a return man. So Definitely got the outside weapons. Then Jay Ajayi, he's a workhorse running back. Stays healthy. He's looking at 1,400 yards and 15-plus touchdowns again.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt Miller, you didn't realize how good he was until you saw me snatch him up. All right, guys, I got a nice little senior nugget there. Needed to shore up my receiver group there, and I got Miller. Boise's offense has just always been so fun to watch for the most part, and they always score points. So why would you not want them?
They got the head coach now. I know Chris Peterson left, but the head coach is Brian Harsin, who was the offensive coordinator when the Boise teams were at the height of their.
Was Zabransky and all them?
Yeah, Zabransky and Kellen Moore mainly. The teams that were in the top 5 when they were ranked in the top 5 of the country, that he was their offensive coordinator. So.
Is this going to be like one of those fun offenses that like does a bunch of trick plays, or is this going to be a straight up like what is their offensive style? Because I believe you've always said that they kind of mold to what they need or have.
Chris Peterson was always. I read an article today actually about Chris Peterson, and it's basically what I've been saying about him for years, that he adapts his offense to the personnel instead of putting a plan in place and just running it regardless, like no matter what. And I think that's what made him great at Boise. But Brian Harsin, he likes to run a lot of shifts. Remember when Boise used to shift a bunch? Shift in motion?
Yeah.
I think they'll go back to a lot of that.
Okay. That's interesting. Andrew, from an outsider's perspective, I mean, what do you think of this offense? Do you think you'd rather have one of those receivers? Do you think Ajayi is one of those like stud guys that you need to try and have week in and week out?
Hey, buddy, I should have worn my Kellen Moore jersey tonight. I'm not too much of an outsider. I've been to Boise for a game. I mean, even though I root for Georgia, I'm not a complete hater on the little guy. Like I'm down with Boise, but I'll just disregard that comment. But I like pretty much all the aspects of the offense, whether it be Miller or Rhodes. I don't know much about Hedrick, but I don't know if he's going to be as valuable as some of the other parts of the offense, like Ajayi or Williams-Rhodes or Miller. But I do think we need to touch on that, Zach. I know you own Hendricks, so maybe you're a little biased, but do you think what kind of numbers do you think see him putting up? Is he a runner? Is he like a pocket passer?
Well, he was the option guy when Southwick was there last year. And really the year before, he was still the option guy. I think they're going to develop him into more of a passer because of the weapons they do have. But I think he's going to be used still with the option, but they also don't have a reliable option behind him. So I think they're going to lean on him more through the air, develop him more as a passer. I think he goes, the projections I have for him, I'm working on a projection sheet. I have him for 3,200 yards and 26 touchdowns.
It's very Homer of you.
You asked his opinion, and then you shut him down like that?
And 450 rushing yards. Throw that in there.
How many rushing yards?
450.
Yeah.
Because every game that I've watched him play, he breaks big runs. Like he'll run that.
No, I honestly thought I expected more rushing yards and less passing out of your projection.
Well, I just think that if he does get hurt, they're in trouble.
Fair.
I think they're gonna. Harsin knows that.
So. All right, so here's obviously I know who Boise is. I know they're players. You could have asked me beforehand. I would have named all 3 of those players. But do you want Williams-Rhodes, the PPR guy, or do you think Miller is the better receiver DFS-wise?
I think I'm leaning Miller just because he's a pure receiver. Williams-Rhodes, I actually saw something today. They want to develop him into a true outside receiver at 5'6", which, hey, go for it. But
that sounds scary to me, to be honest.
Yeah, but you know what? I think they know he's a playmaker, and they're going to get him the ball any way they can. And the guy can jump from 5'6". He can jump almost any corner that's out there. So it's just a matter of him being shorter than the corner that's covering him.
Yeah, I see. The thing with that is he's 5'6". What's he gonna do? Someone can play press on him, and he's not gonna be. Isn't that kind of why he's been good? Is because he's been in the slot. He gets a little more open space. He can move in motion and do
Yeah,
more things to get open in that fashion.
they ran a lot of like jet sweeps with him, or they ran like bubble screens to him, and I'm sure they'll still do the same thing. So, but I think they want to get him downfield. They say he's a great route runner, so I guess we'll see this year if that's true or not.
Yeah, I think so. Man, let's see, 1,400 yards out of Ajayi. That's pretty. It's a pretty big number. So I think on Fantasy Aces as well, he's pretty high in price. What is this? I'm looking at this Lou chat, and Bell is just trolling me hardcore right now. I think probably the next best, not next best technically, but maybe one of the ones we need to look at here is Bowling Green. They have an offense that's very dynamic. You got Matt Johnson at quarterback, Travis Green as a running back, and then a receiver situation that's kind of intriguing. Andrew, what can you tell me about Matt Johnson at quarterback? He had that big breakout game in the bowl game last year. Do you think that's something he can continue with, or do you think he's maybe a little bit overrated?
So, like, Bowling Green's that cool offense this year. Like, they're the one everyone wants a piece of. I mean, it's easy to see why. If you just look at the numbers that their new coach, Dino Babers, was able to generate at Eastern Illinois when he had Garoppolo last year. I mean, Garoppolo threw for over 5,000 yards. They had two running backs rush for more than 1,000. Like, just insane numbers. So, and just a little more background on their coach. He was an old Baylor assistant too, and we all know what Baylor does in terms of yards and points. So, like, I mean, the offense was good last year. Travis Green was really, really good, and Johnson was stellar. But so all of the hype is really a lot of it's projection, but it's not like they're taking nothing and trying to turn into something. There is some floor there as well, but kind of like what you said, Chris, that in terms of the wide receiver situation, it's very up in the air just because they had one of their best receivers already go down for the year. They've got I think a transfer too that, I mean, and when it comes to transfers, I mean, you never know how quickly they're going to get acquainted with an offense. They've got another guy I think coming back from injuries, and they've got one other guy. I think it's Ronnie Moore, who, like, he's the guy who's expected to be the number one, but he had like 50 catches for 500 yards last year. So the wide receiver situation's up in the air, but like you said, I mean, Johnson, I think he threw for like 30 TDs. I think he threw for like 30 TDs and 3,000 yards last year. I might be off on those numbers, but he had good numbers. But I mean, a lot of it's just speculation. But there's good reason for that.
He ran for, just to give you some specifics, he ran for 468 with 5 touchdowns, and he threw for 3,400 yards and 25 touchdowns, but only 7 interceptions, so it's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
And with that,
you got to think if he stays healthy, that's his floor, and his ceiling's significantly higher, just considering the offense, the conference. In terms of the running back situation, Green put up great numbers. And I mean, I personally, I'm not Grant, who likes to watch Eastern Illinois games, according to my source. But, just going off of the stats, it seems like there's a place for the Travis Green to be as productive as last year in that offense. So, I mean,
yeah, Travis, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I would summarize the situation as high floor, very high ceiling for that offense.
Yeah, Travis Green had a great year last year, 1,600 yards and like double-digit touchdowns. I think 11, yeah. So just off of last season alone, I don't see why the offense would get any worse, especially with you talking about how good that was with the head coach last season at Eastern Illinois. And to give you the source, Grant and I have talked in the past plenty of times, and the one time we talked, he loves watching like game tape. And he told me one time he just sat down and watched some Joey Garoppolo game tape. Why? Who knows? But he just loves college football like that. And so he'll be, the funny thing is Bowling Green plays like 5 weekday games. They play Western Kentucky in week 1 on the 29th, and they play a bunch of weekday games towards the end in all of November, weekday games in all of November. So we're going to see a lot of them in these small slates on Fantasy Elite.
Unfortunately, they have buys back-to-back weeks, which is, I mean, I'm sure that's a result of their weekday schedule. But I mean, I guess that's good and bad. But sorry to cut you off there.
Andrew, you get one more cut off the rest of the show, okay, guy?
I'll save it for a good time.
Zach, I mean, real quick, what do you think about this offense? Do you think there's any potential in these receivers? Or do you think it's really quarterback, running back, lock them in?
Well, there's a lot of potential in the receivers. It's just we don't know which ones. It's kind of what he said. It's all up in the air. You got Ronnie Moore, the transfer Garrett Dieter from SMU, but I mean, there's 4, 5, 6 guys that they could plug in and throw all day, you know. And it's just, I think, you know, until we see this offense at this level, I know Eastern Illinois is a great team at the FCS level, but this is a step up. Even though it's in the MAC, I mean, it is a step up. So,
you said one of the receivers was ruled ineligible. Which one was that for the viewers?
No, Chris Gowan is out for the season.
Out for the season, Chris Gowan. Now you kind of talk about how the receivers, you don't really know which ones are going to be the studs. Would you kind of compare them to Washington State? How it's like, I guess Washington State has the one stud, but you have a bunch of different receivers that are going to have good games. You just don't know exactly when.
Yeah, I think that most of the receivers will have decent games every week. But will there be a guy that's just over the top good? And I don't know if we'll see that from this team.
All right, fair enough. I think this is a really intriguing offense to look at. Andrew, you got a team that you specifically want to ask Zach about, or myself about, or just chat about in general?
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, I got a few. So last year it seemed like whenever Old Dominion had to play someone that wasn't at the high school level, I mean, from a defensive standpoint, they usually got blown out, but their offensive stats kind of scaled back too. I remember that they only put up like 30 points against UNC. They got killed by Pittsburgh. I know they're only in Conference USA this year, but I mean, they're playing significantly less Division 5A schools this year. So
Andrew, oh my God, you tell it how it is. Keep going, man.
Considering how expensive you would think Heineke would be both initially in DFS and if you're going to have to pay for him in seasonal, do you think that's worth the tag, or do you think I assume production won't be quite as high as it was the past 2 years, but how much do you see it scaling back?
I think his numbers will drop a little bit, especially losing his top receiver, Larry Pinkard. But I think he's the second best quarterback in this conference, clearly. I don't think there's another guy in Conference USA. Maybe there's another guy I'll talk about later, but I think his numbers will be pretty solid, and it just depends on the pricing in daily, because I don't know where he'll be priced. I haven't looked at any prices, so I couldn't tell you. But you know, if they play Hampton in the first game, go at NC State, then Eastern Michigan. Not 3 terribly tough games. So, you know, yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, they'll be scaled back a little bit, but I still think he's enough of an athlete in his senior year to own.
Okay, I'm looking at some of these previous games they had last year. For one, the number that sticks out is getting 80 points put on them by UNC. That is awesome. But they had a bunch of huge games, and honestly, yeah, they're in, like, I guess a real football schedule now. But you're telling me that, like, they can't put up points on Eastern Michigan, Middle Tennessee, Rice, Louisiana Tech, Florida Atlantic, UTEP. I mean, I'm not saying these guys are pushovers, but, you know, they should be able to put some points on the board, especially with them putting 76, 59, 66, 66, 59, 42. Like, those are big numbers. If they put up 38 on East Carolina, I think their offense could do it. And didn't they lose another receiver as well? Isn't it Blair Roberts that got hurt, or which one? Wasn't there a second receiver that got hurt?
Honestly, yeah, you're right. Blair Roberts is redshirting this year. He didn't get hurt. He's redshirting.
What's the thought process behind redshirting your senior year?
Don't know. I guess he is hurt, but I think they're just sitting him out.
That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. So you're looking at, I mean, if you're looking at these receivers, then you're looking at Antonio Vaughn and Zach Pascal, correct? As the two guys that would be, I guess, the starters, the guys you would want to keep an eye on. DFS maybe, you know, the first week against Hampton, that could be pretty juicy.
Yeah, and it just depends on what he's priced at. If he's like a top 2 or 3 price guy, I don't know if he's worth it.
I don't know if. I guess it depends on site, but I don't know if that game's even going to be in there with Hampton. Like
Exactly.
I don't know if you're going to have Hampton in there for DFS. I would hope so.
Well, I love looking at some of these scores.
Go look at some of his stats, like games.
Yeah, but Chris, you're only telling half the side. Who'd they drop these basketball scores on?
That's true. I only told. I mean, all right. So they put up 76 on Howard, but you know they practiced the full week before that game, so you can't can't be mean to them there. Okay, 59 on Citadel. By the way, they won 59-58 against Citadel.
So that's a good thing for offenses because their defense is so bad that they're going to be on the field a lot.
You're right.
A lot of potential.
Let's see who else. They put up 38 on East Carolina, 59 on Idaho. That's a D1, an FBS.
They're terrible.
Yeah, but they're still in the FBS.
Fine.
By the way,
the Sun Belt just took them because they had to.
Goodness gracious! I'm trying to see if they ever played like a real
Pitt. They went at Pitt and lost 35-24.
Yeah, well, that's true. They covered the spread on that one. They lost 47-10 against Maryland. Kind of amazing. They only put up 10 on Maryland, but
we're getting potential for offense is there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you're talking about a team that's going to pass a ton, like, why would you not put some stock in? You know, I'm telling you right now, Pascal and Vaughn are going to be two cheaper options in week 1. Like, there's no reason for them to be high-priced based off of some of these sites, algorithms and all that, based off of last year's stats. Those two are going to be pretty cheap. Now, do you want to take a chance on a guy, Antonio Vaughn, that's 5'8"? Like,
right.
You know, he's not a big dude. You never know what you're going to get out of that. But they're going to pass a ton. I mean, let's see how many attempts that Hunky had. 486 attempts last year. And their defense isn't good. They're going to pass a ton. Why would you not take a chance, is my case. I mean, I wouldn't do it against NC State, but against Hampton, every day of the week, man.
Here's to go back to Andrew's question, like, will the stats decline? From 2012, he threw for 5,076 yards and 44 touchdowns. In 2013, he threw 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, and that was against a mixed match. You know, he had some FBS games, some FCS games. So in 2012, it was all straight FCS. So obviously it's impacted his production, but he still threw 4,000 yards. I think he's going to get close to that again.
Okay.
I'm with you, man.
May not break 4,000, but maybe 3,800 isn't out of the question.
Team Zach. I'm on Team Zach right now. Let's see here. I'm trying to look at Tulsa. They're included in this best of the rest, are they not?
Nope, we're not talking Tulsa.
We're not talking Tulsa? Didn't we already talk about them really last one of the weeks?
Yeah, there was a couple guys that might be fantasy worthy, but they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. So,
all right, well, really quick, because we had DC Coop D Coop is in the chat. Zach, give me like a brief, really quick, because we have discussed it. I remember that now that you bring it up. That was the guy with the receiver that I said his mom doesn't even care about, how he doesn't even know that he's going to be a stud.
Kevon Lucas?
Kevon Lucas, yes. Can you talk really briefly about Tulsa's potential for D Coop?
You know, they have some potential at wide receiver. It just depends on if their quarterback if they choose the right guy that can actually lead them to good numbers. Because Kevon Lucas is a pure athlete playing wide receiver, and Kiaris Garrett is coming back from a injury, but he's like 6'5", 220, like prototypical NFL receiver. So they have the targets. I think, like I said, if they can work out the quarterback situation, I think there's potential there. But
all right, yeah, I mean that's good. I mean we discussed in the past D Coop. You can check it out. I guess whatever conference they're in, we did do it, and you should be able to find it on YouTube. I think one guy we really need to talk about is Chucky Keaton in Utah State. I was talking to Andrew about this in the pre-show, how I think that how we both think Tennessee is going to be, extremely overrated compared to what some of these people are insane. They think Tennessee's going to be like easily bowl eligible. Andrew and I went through it, and we're like, I could see them winning 4 games. The reason why I bring that up is because they play Utah State in week 1
on a Sunday.
On a Sunday, so that'll probably be a Fantasy Elite slate as well with the Sunday games. Andrew, what do you think about Chucky Keaton? Do you think he's as high up as some of these other guys? Like, is he maybe like a poor man's Cato in terms of fantasy points overall, or what?
I think he's gonna win me a lot of money on that Sunday because I think Utah State goes into Rocky Top, and I'm gonna predict 30-13 because Utah State's D is awesome, and I still need you to drop them so I can have them back.
Go into Rocky Top and blow them out.
Blow them out, dude. Woo. But to address
7-point dogs. So
What's
that'd
up?
be impressive. I said there's 7-point dogs, I think, right now, so that would be impressive.
It would be. Chucky's great, man. But so I guess the concerns are he's coming off that torn ACL. I think a lot of his value derives from his running ability, so will they scale that back somewhat this year? I honestly haven't owned him and haven't really played him much in DFS. But it seemed to be that like the hype. I don't know if the hype and the stats ever really matched each other. Like if you just look at a stat line, is it that impressive? Like what are his 2012 stats? Because 2013, I think we can kind of throw out the window.
2012, he threw for 3,300 yards, 27 TDs, 9 picks. And last year, in 6 games, threw for 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 2 picks.
All right. So he's a stud.
Yeah.
I think it's fair enough to say that, man. And they got a pretty favorable schedule as well.
I'm worried about them beating Boise, to be totally honest with you.
Well, that'll be a big game because if they can beat Tennessee, they got Wake, they got BYU.
Last game on the schedule.
And then Boise, the last game of the schedule. I can see that one kind of deciding the conference. I see Utah State as probably the second best team. I think that's what Phil Steele agrees with me in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Chucky, Zach?
Oh, I like Chucky Keaton. I wish I could have gotten him this year in our Dynasty League, but he went too early for me, so I couldn't get him. But I like him. I kind of agree with Andrew. I think he's going to put on a show in Knoxville. I'm not going to go out and put the far-fetched score that he put out, but I think they got a good shot to win that game, and Chucky Keaton will be a big reason why.
Yeah,
did you watch that bowl game again? I know he didn't even play in it, but the game against Northern Illinois where they made Jordan Lynch and Northern Illinois' offense look absolutely awful.
Yeah.
I don't know. And dude, Tennessee is throwing out. I could talk about this all day because it's gonna be pathetic. Justin Worley is not a Division I quarterback. I know their receivers are awesome, but you
gotta have a quarterback to get it to him.
Well, exactly. I don't even agree that their receivers are awesome.
You don't?
Sure, like Pig Howard's good and Marquez North are good, but don't they have a stud freshman as well? Like
Josh Malone.
But
Von Pearson, the JUCO guy.
Come on, are we guys that have never played? Like, how many times have we seen 5-star guys not do well? And then you have Justin Worley at quarterback. If you're gonna tell me that this team is gonna win 6 or 7 games and a bunch of them in the SEC, they're gonna have more production and more of a reliable team than a JUCO guy, a 5-star guy, and then Marquez North. Okay, we're talking Marquez North. He had 43 catches last year.
Fair enough.
Come on. And if their backup, let's say they use Worley and then you don't like him, Joshua Dobbs is their backup.
They don't like him.
And they don't like him. Maybe they lose the first couple games. I could see him go 1-4 to start the season, but yeah, I could talk about this all day as well, Andrew. Let's move on here. One of the most amazing players in the best of the rest we would talk about last year would have been Capri Bibbs on Colorado State. The guy was unbelievable. Just Superman, one unbelievable running back. Is that a system that allowed Capri Bibbs to be amazing? or is that just Capri Bibbs being amazing? Because I'm looking at this Colorado State team saying who's going to be the next guy in line.
Well, I think it's system. And Bibbs had a little bit to do with it, but I think once they realized he had like back-to-back games with like 5 touchdowns, they said, this is how we're going to win games. We're just going to give him the ball. And they gave him the ball 281 times last year. So, you know, I think that the offense kind of dictates the
he didn't even start getting carries until like halfway through the year.
Right. But I think once they realized that, you know what, he's breaking 80-yard runs like right up the middle, I think we just keep doing it. But like back to your point though, the Alabama transfer D Hart is in line to be the starter there. I mean, I don't see who's going to take that from him because the next guy in line was Donnell Alexander and he's transferring. So, you know, I think it's really it was a running back job that was open, and D Hart came in. I think he's going to fill it, and a former 5-star running back playing in the Mountain West. So,
yeah, that's a really good situation for him. Then it sounds like.
And I'm sorry, I know I'm using my one cutoff. And the guy who recruited D Hart at Alabama is the head coach of Colorado State.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say that's a really good transfer move there. Somebody to really keep an eye on. And then I think that Colorado State's got a tight end that we should be looking at, Kevon Cartwright, 6'4", 245, a big dude. And they've used him pretty well. I mean, last season. I mean, he only had 27 catches, but he had 460 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're a Cartwright fan, aren't you? Or did I just make that up?
I am. I think we should also note that they had another tight end. I think his name was Crockett. Zach Crockett, maybe? But
Crockett Gilmore.
Crockett, my bad.
You got
Gilmore.
You're good.
But he's in the NFL now, so I mean, we always hope in that situation that the one guy just steps and does double the work. I mean, who knows if that's the case, but we play in a world where there aren't a lot of exciting tight end options in college football. So, I mean, Cartwright offers a nice floor, I think, with a pretty good ceiling as well.
I like him too because not very many carries. He had 4 carries out of the backfield, but that just shows me that they're willing to give him the ball out of the backfield.
Nice.
You know, so maybe that expands this year. Even with D Hart there, maybe they use that big tight end they've got on goal line situations especially.
Yeah, and they play Colorado week 1, who has had a terrible defense for the last 20 years. So we're looking at a possible. What's that?
Do we think they can beat Colorado?
I don't even want to get.
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it just because I would never talk bad about Cefu on TV. But they play on a Friday. We got Old Dominion on a Friday. We're looking at some possible early slate action. D Hart sounds like a guy that you should really take a look at from already. Zach, how about you choose the team you want to talk about now? What team really piques your interest when it comes to some of these smaller schools?
Well, before we leave Colorado State, I like their quarterback, Garrett Grayson. And I think he's in line for a really big season. I think Colorado State, they're in the same division as Boise and Utah State. I think those 3 teams, I'm not going to be bold enough to pick Colorado State to win that division, but I think that they could be a big player in that side of the Mountain West. Garrett Grayson threw for 3,600 yards, almost 3,700 yards last year in a running offense. So, hey, I think he's in line for a pretty good season.
Yeah, he had some pretty solid games, and I remember him being I think he had a big game in that bowl game, did he not?
Yeah, he threw for almost 369 and 2 touchdowns against Washington State. So
solid numbers there. Did you want to pick a team, Zach, or you want me to pick a team for you?
You go ahead and pick one. I don't know where to go here from.
All right, going from another solid quarterback, I think Cody Fajardo. He pronounces it both ways. We discussed in pre-show. I guess technically it's Cody Fajardo, but he just kind of deals with it. From Nevada, I always kind of got him mixed up with Chucky Keaton. I knew who Chucky Keaton was, but they kind of remind me of the same player just because I know that they're really, really good from small schools with dark colors. It sounds pretty dumb, but this is my general good analysis right here. Andrew, Cody Fajardo, are you a fan? Are you not a fan? What do you think about him?
I can't say I followed Nevada overly closely, but it seems like he's always getting hurt. and he hasn't had those insane Kaepernick games that you come to expect from that Nevada system. It just, I don't know, not just him, but the running backs. I mean, haven't been as great in recent years since Vitawa has left. Seems like it was somewhat of a committee last year, and I don't know. I mean, I think the offense will be good, but I don't know. I don't know if elite's the right word. What do you think, Zach?
I think he's got a potential to be elite, but like you said, the running backs, it's kind of a committee thing, and I think they've kind of gone away from that pistol read option that they used to run under was it Coach Alt. You know, they would run out of that pistol. They were the only team to run out of the pistol there for a long time, and that's where majority of their rushing stats came from, because they would just give that guy the ball right up the middle, and if they crashed on him, Fajardo would just or Kaepernick would take it around the end and run for 40 yards. So I think they've kind of gone away from that. But with that said, I think they have two very good receivers that will boost his passing numbers this year in Richie Turner and Hassan Henderson.
They got good names. I'll give them that. I don't know much about them, but I like their names.
What does Fajardo do best? Is he a better runner, passer?
I think he's a better passer outside of the pocket. So he uses mobility to get outside and get his yard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He's not afraid to tuck it down and run, but like you said, he gets hurt often.
Well, he had 141 carries and 770 yards last year.
Right. I mean,
so they will run it. And not to say, I mean, the carries, 4.4 yards per carry, so it's not like he's got some crazy high number, but they will run it. And, hey, maybe they shut it down a little bit to allow him to pass because he's gotten hurt so consistently. I'm trying to think of this next one. The next team on this list, San Jose State Spartans. Jared Lawson has some potential, does he not? Or did I just make that up?
He's got potential, I guess, but I think everybody knows that because David Fales is gone. Every defense is going to key on that backfield. They haven't named a starter at quarterback yet, so you know I'm staying away from San Jose State right now. They have a good receiver, Tyler Winston, Jabari Carr. They have some guys out there. It's just they don't have David Fales at quarterback. It's going to be kind of like Fresno without Derek Carr. They're going to have to find a guy and find him fast for that offense to click.
Man, I just love having Zach here because I just dropped San Jose State, and he's probably the only guy in America that can name more than one player on San Jose State.
It's my turn to ask a question.
Go for it.
So, all right, when I say a 50-point guy, I mean like a Mariota, like a Tebow, Sam Bradford, Colt McCoy, So like a Raheem Cato, someone we haven't mentioned yet in one of these small schools who hasn't been that guy yet but has potential to be this year. Go for it.
Dude, that's a good question.
That's tough, man. Like, we've kind of named all of the 50-point guys. I mean,
what about Terrence Broadway?
He's so hit or miss. Like, he has that potential to be very good. Like, he might go for 50 one game and 6 the next game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I don't consider that a 50-point guy. Like, Chucky Keaton he might average 35 a game.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
And to be honest, I think that might be what you're looking at as far as you got Fajardo. I guess Brandon Connett, is from Fresno, is the other guy. If he steps in and can learn that offense and be somewhat like Derek Carr, then I guess maybe him. But other than that, I think you've kind of named all the big, heavy hitters.
Yeah, I guess I went over my head.
No, you're good, man. You're good. You're pushing them to the limit. Terrence Broadway had 8 rushing touchdowns last year. His passing numbers were kind of blah, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
I will say this: a guy that I'm watching, I guess I don't know if he could consider him a 50-point guy. Basically, for the team he plays for Rice. Dreyfus Jackson, quarterback.
Dreyfus Jackson, my dude. I had mentioned him before the show.
Yeah, and I'm watching him. I'm not quite sure how he's going to do just because Rice is kind of a very unpredictable team. So, but he's an athlete. Take that for what it's worth. And
he's got a good receiver on the outside with Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, he does.
My guy is, and dude, this might fall flat. So, I mean, I guess that's what we're doing right now. We're pulling at straws. But my guy's Freddie Knighton, the dude on Arkansas State, because like who knows if he's going to put up the passing numbers, but if he can throw for 200 a game, it seems like he's got the rushing ability to easily, like against some weaker teams, go for 150, 200, more than that. And the offense is very friendly in that regard as well.
It's just going to be interesting with Arkansas State because they've had like a new coach for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, they go from
it's like, dude, they've had 8 coaches in like the last 5 years.
Yeah. So it's like you don't know what kind of offense they're going to have when they roll out there. Like Brian Harsin was the coach last year, and he's now at Boise. So, you know, I don't know. Freddie Knighton, he's got very good potential. I like him, but to say he's a 50-point guy, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. All right, here's San Diego State's offense. I think has got some potential in it. They have Azell Ruffin, the receiver, who was pretty solid last year, and the quarterback Quinn Kaler. Good. He's a 3,000 yard passer. What are your thoughts on him and maybe Azell Ruffin? Is that like maybe you find a good matchup during the week or maybe like a late slate and you throw those two in there? Because it looks like from last year's numbers and some of these games they have coming up this season, they have some potential to do some damage as well.
Oh, no doubt. I think Azell Ruffin could be one of the best receivers in the Mountain West, potentially. He was the leading receiver last year with 68 catches, 1,100 yards. Only had 3 touchdowns, but the 3 receivers that were below him, statistically, were all seniors. So he's going to be clearly the guy, the number 1 receiver, and I don't even know if they'll even name a number 2. But I think he's going to be the guy on the perimeter that makes all their plays. I would expect those numbers to go up, especially the touchdowns. I think he's looking maybe even close to double-digit touchdowns.
All right.
We got to talk about if we're talking about San Diego State, we got to talk about Pumphrey, right?
Yeah, you know what I've been reading about San Diego State is that their running back situation isn't decided yet. Really? Pumphrey's, I guess, the guy that was supposed to take over. But they got a guy, Chase Price, that's supposed to be competing for carries, and then a redshirt freshman, Marcus Stamps. Yeah, so, you know, I think it's too early to tell right now.
Is it true that he ran for 1,000 yards as a backup last year?
Who's that?
Pumphrey?
No, he ran for 750 and
773, yeah.
But he caught 230 yards receiving, so about 1,000 total yards.
Yeah, he had 1,000 total yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Can I just point something out? I don't know if you guys have gotten to San Diego State on Phil Steele's magazine.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Phil Steele's doing, but when they talk about running backs, let me read this to you here, okay? Because it's a great story. Adam Muema is a great story. At a high school graduation party, he was trying to break up a fight and was hit in the head with a baseball bat, requiring 36 stitches and suffered a fractured orbital bone. He ignored advice to continue playing ball and we rushed for 253 yards as a redshirt freshman. Why do I need to know that? Like, what is Phil Steele doing, wasting time and energy on that story?
Dude, why aren't they including the story where he goes insane, sits in an airport for a week instead of going to the combine? And then
said God told him
to
play for the Seahawks.
God told him what?
God told him he would be drafted by the Seahawks.
He did. Then he went undrafted, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bold move, Adam.
Yeah.
But I just figured I had to read that. Yeah, Pumphrey. I mean, you'd think that he would take over, but.
Yeah, I liked him until I was looking to draft him, and then I started reading about San Diego State when I was doing my depth charts, you know, and I saw they don't really know who the lead guy is right now, and it might be a committee thing.
That's unsettling.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's Marcus Stamps because that's who I drafted as my developmental guy.
All right, so you mentioned Brandon Connett earlier, or not Brandon Connett, the Fresno State quarterback situation earlier. Do you think it'll be Brandon Connett, the transfer from Duke, who's immediately eligible, or do you think it'll be this backup, Brian Burrell or Zach Greenlee? Who do you think it'll be?
I think it'll be Connett. I think I did read a comment from the coach saying that we will not transform our offense for his running style. So I guess he's going to have to learn to throw it a lot more. I don't take that as 100% true. I don't think the coach is going to tell him don't use your athletic ability and run when you have the opportunity. But I do think he will be expected to pass more, and he's got some weapons, so it shouldn't be that big of a learning curve for him.
Yeah, they have 4 Friday night games. So I'm thinking Josh, all in a row, by the way, in September to early October. Josh Harper, that's the guy we got to talk about offensively. Or do you think Connett's going to kind of hinder his potential because of his maybe lack of ability to throw the football?
I can't say I don't like him. I just think that a lot of people have a very, very high expectations for him because of, that the receivers that were there last year. I mean, losing Derek Carr is going to be a huge loss to that offense, more than the receivers. That was an offense where you could have plugged in receivers. As long as you had Derek Carr, they were going to be very good.
We could have gone in.
So, yeah, exactly.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, Andrew.
But no, you understand what I'm saying, though. Like,
no. I'm 100% behind you.
I think the people are expecting this 1,500-yard season out of Harper, and I don't see it.
I think people forget how good Carr was. And I mean, he made Devontae Adams and Isaiah Burse had 231 catches for 2,700 yards and 30 touchdowns. Yeah. That's absolutely unbelievable. So you're not a fan of Harper. I'm guessing Harper is going to be towards the higher end of pricing, so you wouldn't pay for him at that level.
No, I don't see it unless Connett, or I guess whoever the quarterback is, I assume it's going to be Connett, comes out and slings it around the yard like Derek Carr did. I'm not touching Josh Harper because I think he'll be near the top, like you said, of pricing.
All right. Andrew, didn't you have a question about Hawaii earlier that you wanted to ask Zach?
Yeah, Zach. So, I mean, considering the news that's broke in terms of their quarterback and considering how bland the offense looked last year, and I mean, we've talked about on the show a couple times the glory days of Hawaii quarterbacks, but just reading basically the only article that's available out there about this situation, it seems like they might be transitioning a little more back towards the spread. What kind of do we see any value in this Hawaii quarterback situation? Any real value in fantasy, or is it more just of a backup? The guy's name was I don't want to murder it, but I'm going to. It's Ikika Woosley, right? Good enough.
I say Ikika Woolsey, but
okay.
Good enough.
Fair.
I think he's got value. Maybe not as in our dynasty league. He wouldn't be one of your top 2 guys you would start week in, week out. But I think he's definitely got value, especially in certain matchups. I mean, I think against, maybe not at Rice, gets a long way. Northern Iowa, I'm looking at the schedule here. At San Jose State wouldn't be a bad one. I don't know. I think he's got some value as maybe your 4th quarterback, which doesn't say much. But I mean, I can't count him out. Hawaii sometimes produces gems, man.
What do you think of Iosefa?
I like him a lot. And I looked at a stat that said in the last 5 games last year, he led the nation in yards per game. And he only played those 5 games, I think. 5 or 6 games. It was insane. Yeah, he had 5 games and he carried the ball 126 times.
Can we just stop here and talk about how great the names are on this team? They have Steven Laka. Or Laka. Yes, I didn't know.
You know what I think of? Maybe you guys think of the same thing when I hear that name. Think of NBA Jam when he says boom shakalaka.
Dude, boom shakalaka all day. They have a guy named Diosemi Saint Juicy. Okay. And finally, we have Billy Ray Stutzman. This is like the all-name team right here. You could not get any better than that. You really can't.
Go look at their linemen when you get a chance in the Phil Steele magazine. You'll like those too. But anyway, there's not much else between those two guys. Hawaii. I mean, I guess if you're talking receivers, Scott Harding is the guy, but I wouldn't put too much stock in him.
All right. Maybe a dabble here with UNLV. Devontae Davis.
Yeah, he's the best receiver in the Mountain West, I think, hands down. Now, I wish he just played for a better team. But even with that said, he still went for, I believe, like 1,400 yards last year. Or 1,300 yards.
1,290.
Yeah, almost 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns. So I think they're going to lean on him pretty heavily again. And I don't see really anybody.
But you have him extremely high, Zach, like as a top 3 receiver overall, right?
Well, and I have him on my rankings as the number 1 guy, and that's mainly because Justin Hardy, Deontay Greenberry, and Antoine Goodley all have 3 bye weeks. That's factored in. I would think those 3 guys are fantasy, like per game, are better. But I think when the season long, when you have 3 bye weeks, that can hurt you.
Okay.
But no, I don't believe he's the best fantasy receiver, I guess. I should have probably clarified that on my rankings, but I'm going to update those here soon anyway. So.
All right, here I wanted to kind of bring in some of the Michigan schools here. Eastern, Western, and Central, I think, kind of have 1 guy each that have potential coming into the year. Eastern, we got Bronson Hill, the running back, over 1,000-yard rusher, and he only had 196 carries. Okay.
Yep.
So that's a guy I think you should take a look at. And then we got 2 receivers for Western Michigan. We have Corey Davis, the sophomore. Solid season, almost 1,000 yards receiving. And then on Central, Titus Davis. He had, 61 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. So do you have any input, Andrew, maybe on them, or should we just defer to Zach?
We can defer to Zach on that one. The only comment I want to make is maybe if you're drafting and you've got a late round flyer, one of the schools, I don't remember which, got that dude Thomas Rouse from the actual Michigan school. So I mean that kid was like a 4-star running back recruit. So I know they haven't established running back there, but I mean it's not out of the realm possibility that he grabs that job.
All right, Zach, you haven't talked a whole lot today. What are your thoughts on some of those 3 names, and maybe even Thomas Rawls or whatever, the running back from transfer from Michigan? Any thoughts on those 4?
Well, I like Corey Davis mainly because he's on my fantasy team, but I think he's got great. He's in line for a great season. He was a freshman last year and led the team like there wasn't anybody even close to touching his numbers last year. So I think he's in line for even a better season this year. Titus Davis, he's been one of the most consistent receivers, especially in the MAC. He's their big play guy. I mean, like Chris Davis or Corey Davis from Western Michigan, nobody's even close as the second receiver on the team. So, I think they're both very good options. As far as Rawls goes, I'm not so sure. I haven't really done any research on him, so I couldn't really tell you. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
I was just thinking.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's Central Michigan. I mean, he's got a good shot, as good a shot as anybody to win that job. So he's probably the most talented back on the roster, I would have to think.
All right, so dude, I can't really find a whole lot of teams worth mentioning. Some of these big names, throughout the season, maybe you'll see some guys pop out and really have some good season, kind of break out. But the last team I kind of wanted to talk about was Appalachian State.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Cameron Bryant, the quarterback, Marcus Cox, the running back, those 2 specifically. They're making the full move, I believe. This is their first full season as all FBS. So what are your thoughts on their offense in general throughout the full season, Zach, and maybe those two in particular?
Well, I think Marcus Cox might be one of the best fantasy backs that nobody's really even heard is talking about right now. I know there's been taking a step up into the big time college football, but they are in the Sun Belt, so they aren't jumping into the SEC by any means. So, I think if you go look at Marcus Cox's numbers, and he was a freshman last year.
He has some really, really good numbers, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't have them right offhand, but when I was looking at him, I was blown away of how good he was.
21 touchdowns, almost 1,300 yards rushing, and 43 catches for 559 receiving.
Yeah. 15 touchdowns and 6 rushing and 6 receiving. So he's an all-purpose back, and I think he's only a freshman, so he's going to get better, I would have to think.
And they according to your boy Phil Steele, they return the most offensive line starts of any team in the nation.
That's a good number there.
So I think I was taking Cox if he made it to me at the end of round 1, but somebody sniped him.
I was going to take him second pick on the way back, which obviously I didn't think was going to happen. But as a sophomore, Marcus Cox, why would you not? I mean, I think you said it well. Like, yeah, sure, they're going to move to the FBS, but they're in the Sun Belt. I mean, look at who they're playing. First of all, they're in the Sun Belt, and they're playing Campbell and Liberty, and so they're not even in FBS. They got Georgia
Old Dominion schedule.
Yeah, they have Georgia State, Georgia Southern, South Alabama. Like, the best team they'll play is going to be
Michigan,
at Louisiana, Lafayette, and Michigan, and then at Lafayette, Louisiana. I mean, come on. I can't really imagine that offense being hindered that much by the step up. I don't see those teams being that much better defensively to really slow them down.
Yeah, I think they're in line for. I think when they finished 4-8 last year, I think you're looking at they may even step up this year and win 5 or 6 games this year.
Yeah, well, to kind of put one of the teams on it, they played Georgia Southern this year. They put up 38 points on them last year. Okay, Georgia Southern's routinely a really good team. Wofford and Western Carolina are routinely pretty solid teams, 33 and 48 points. I mean, sure, I'm grasping at straws with some of these schools, but at least I'm not talking about them playing Hampton or Howard or something like Old Dominion
or Campbell.
I think they didn't play Campbell.
They play them this year.
They do this year. The Fighting Camel.
This year. Nice. Oh my goodness. Anyways, did we miss anybody? Does anybody want to talk about somebody we missed? Andrew? Anybody?
Your boy. Talk about him.
Cameron Bryant?
No. The guy from Louisiana Lafayette.
My boy?
Your boy, yeah.
Elijah?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's easy to predict that Alonzo Harris is going down in week 1. And
jeez. We went there. We've gone there. All right, keep going.
And then Elijah gets probably 250 carries and goes for 2,000 yards.
Jeez.
But, I mean, in reality, that situation there is going to be so tough to call week to week with Alonzo Harris and Elijah and Broadway getting carries. But, I mean, just going by his awesome freshman year and the fact that you would expect, I mean, he did that. He put on those 30 pounds of muscle that everybody seems to do in between their freshman and sophomore years. So, I mean, if he gets another 50 carries, he could be looking at 1,300 yards, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, they got 3 guys with 600 yards or more rushing. Okay, they have 3 guys with over 100 carries. Elijah had 103, and he had 871 yards. It's 8.4 yards per carry. That's almost double what Harris had. I mean, that sounds like – it really feels like you're playing with fire in that situation. But, Andrew, of all the people here, I'm not surprised you're the one that's playing with it the most, all right? I was about to say, where is Andrew's wacky, crazy, ridiculous statement that's coming? Whether it be a team or a player or whatever, and we found it with Elijah McGuire.
Listen, man, I'm predicting a 30-13 drubbing on Rocky Top opening Sunday. That's That's crazy enough.
Yeah.
You think that who is it? Trevor Knight is going to be the worst quarterback ever, and Jacoby Brissett is going to win the Heisman this year. So you have not been short of crazy statements this season. That's for sure.
I got a couple guys, I guess, before we go.
Yeah, go for it, man.
There's so many guys we could talk about. We don't have enough time. Obviously, we won't have another 10 hours to do this. But I like Kareem Hunt from Toledo. He's definitely a guy to watch. They've had some great running backs in the past, and David Fluellen's now gone. And Kareem Hunt, last year, stepping in for him, had very solid numbers. So I definitely got to watch there. I think the Rice situation running back, Juwan Davis or Derek Dillard, I think they're both in line for potentially great seasons as far as Rice running backs go. The Western Kentucky running back situation, you got Leon Allen that's supposed to step in and be the guy, but it's going to be kind of tough because they're changing their whole system now with Petrino gone.
You don't have faith. You don't have faith in Leon Allen there?
No, I have faith in him. I just don't know if they'll use him like they did with Antonio Andrews and Bobby Rainey before. So he's definitely the running back, I think, there. I just don't know if he's going to be the all-purpose guy. I keep looking down at this magazine and seeing I see a team pop in my head and I think of this guy, and I don't have enough time to talk about him. So anyway,
all right. Well,
unless there's something you want to know,
I mean, I honestly have talked about players like that. That's a little bit much. I feel a little bit out just from all these questions and trying to figure this all out. I felt like I was going to say something and then I forgot. Oh yeah, D Coop wants to know. I have no idea what this is, Andrew. He keeps bringing up drunk history. Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
Is that directed at Andrew?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I do.
This guy wants to know. Ask Andrew about drunk history.
Oh, yeah, dude. I guess I can't curse on. I was gonna say it, but no. I lost. You ever playing Tournament of Shame on DraftKings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I've heard of it.
I thought you're not supposed to get caught your first time, like trying to steal something, or you're not supposed to come in last the first time. Well, I came in last my first time, so you can check out that video if you can find it on the internet. I won't tell you where, but
wait. You got last in a baseball tournament, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And you had to do what?
I had to. Have you seen that show on Comedy Central, Drunk History?
No.
Oh, basically they find strangers in a bar who are wasted, and they have them just talk about something in history that's like either meaningful to them or they just have like knowledge on the topic. It's good because they're like blackout drunk and like so that's pretty much what I have to do about sports.
We do not approve of that message. Okay, so you pretty much have to get drunk, or you did this already.
I did this already.
So did you go to a bar? Did they did someone videotape you?
No. I just got really wasted and talked about a specific moment in sports history.
Oh my God, this is gonna happen. I do not approve of that message, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe when you drink. Okay, be responsible. Do not do things that he does.
Is D-Cube saying that I did a good show or did a good video?
He's literally just saying he's probably brought it up 10 times in the last hour. Ask Andrew about drunk history. Ask Andrew. Hey, Chris, ask Andrew about drunk history. Are you going to ask him? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm down, but we had to get it at the end of the show because we had such good flow there. I'm going to find it on YouTube. Andrew.
I will take it down as soon as the show's over.
That'll teach you never to get last. Come on, man. You got to represent LuTV better than that. Oh, man. What a show. Zach, big thank you to you today. Obviously, you just tore this thing up.
Yeah.
The fact that you know all these guys is unbelievable. Makes people, I mean, it really should make people realize how much they need to follow you or check out your website. So if you want, give a plug here for it.
All right. Hold on. No, what now? Say that again. I lost. You cut out.
I said plug your site, man. Hit up your Twitter account. Let these people know where you can be found, bro.
Okay, I got my Twitter account, @_CFF News _ and my website is collegefantasyfootballnews.com. So
collegefantasyfootballnews.com. And for those that are wondering, Zach is trying to go to Atlanta, okay, for the Georgia Dome opening kickoff classic for the Boise game. If you live in Atlanta and have a place where Zach can sleep, please give us a call here at LuTV. Let us know because he needs a home for a weekend. All right, guys?
yeah, even just a night, that would be okay too. Just
a night. Maybe you throw a bone here. Maybe you pay back to the community here with Zach. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Next week we'll be discussing the SEC. We'll be doing one final show before we start really breaking into this Fantasy Elite, where we'll be diving into the opening week of games, Thursday, Friday slates. We've already talked about a little bit who we can kind of focus on targeting. But really excited about the news with Fantasy Elite and Grant Gurton. We'll have him on here shortly, hopefully next week or something like that, and maybe talk about it a little bit more. But everybody, thank you again for showing up and watching us. We will see you next week.